we in Australia face an existential problem, and that is a failing or slowing down hegemon in the United States and a rising one in Chad. It's an existential problem because there could be a war between the two. My question to you, and what I'm very interested about, we talk about affinity and Hizmet in the United States, and apparently it's quite widespread, what you said, as it is becoming in Australia. Is there a resonance between the professed tolerance between religions in Hizmet in the United States and the polarization that exists between republics and Democrats, the Christian right, other religious groups? It seems to me, it seems to many of my colleagues that the United States is a failing state. It's becoming more polarized now than ever before. And it's in our interest in Australia that that cannot happen. So to give us an idea of how, whether there is any resonance or whether it's a simple small group in the United States.
So I would say, first of all, that the United States is very much has been for a while in a position of crisis with respect to the polarization to which you refer. We have never been an unpolarized nation. We have always existed in a tension between being a nation of immigrants that embraces immigrants and a nation hostile to immigrants. The so-called nativist movement of the 1830s, that's within 2 generations of independence, there's already a group that has the temerity to refer to itself as nativist, as if they are indigenous to the country, who are hostile to immigrants. So that has always been a thread in our tapestry, together with the threads that are immigrant embracing, because we recognize that part of the secret of America's greatness has been immigrants who bring in new blood, new ideas, and so on and so forth. So there is definitely, from my point of view, a crisis that we are in the midst of experiencing. And one of the entities which offers a solution to that crisis, but it can't do it alone, is in fact Hizmet. So a month ago, during Ramadan, I was down in Baton Rouge and New Orleans in Louisiana, not exactly a hotbed of Turkish or Muslim culture, but Hizmet is down there, and I was down there speaking at 2 iftar interfaith dinners, Friday night, Saturday night. Most of the participants were Christians and a few Jews, most of whom had never really heard about Hizmet or about Gulen, and most of whom probably knew very little about Islam, or any idea of what Ramadan is or what iftar means, and so on and so forth. But one of my takeaways from that experience was they're everywhere. But that's a good thing, because where they are everywhere, they're doing iftar interfaith dinners. They cannot do it alone, but of course what typically happens is that they affiliate with other organizations, of which there are fortunately a goodly number, who have the same kind of ambitions. So my hope, as opposed to my despair, is that in the long run, these kinds of organizations and their ideas prevail over those who want to tear things apart. Whether that happens, I cannot say. There is something to be said for the craziness of America as opposed to the rather extreme regimentation, let's say, of China. So that China, every time it looks like it's on the rise, it stumbles backwards 2 steps, because the limitations it places on its own population causes that fallback even as it moves forward. So again, my hope is that we're not quite failing yet, and it's not quite we're the has-been and they're the future. But again, who can say? If you looked at Russia 2 years ago, you would have thought, they're the next power. Putin is turning them into a superpower. And right now, of course, he's turning Russia into the same kind of mire into which Erdogan has been turning Turkey. And had Trump taken a second term, here I'm showing my hand, am I not? Perhaps America would have gone in the same direction. We're not out of the woods yet, but we did dodge a bullet, if I can mix my metaphors, 3 years ago.